Eliseo, can you please unmute?
Unmuted.
Thank you.
Welcome.
What do you get to do?
Thank you very
We're
much. Afternoon, everyone, and happy holidays. Welcome to the Board of Commissioners regularly scheduled meeting. It is now 12:02 p.m. on December 12th, 2023, our last meeting of the year, probably, at GHURA's main office here in the village of Sinahanya. Let us begin with roll call. Vice Chair Sanchez. Here. Thank you very much. Commissioner Shizaki, I believe, is not able to join us today. Commissioner Delia.
Here.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Rice.
Here.
Thank you very much. And Commissioner Corpus.
Present.
Thank you very much. See you online. Thank you for joining us. We have a quorum. Let us proceed to item number 2, board meeting public announcements. First printing on Monday, December 4th, 2023, and the second printing on Sunday, December 10th, 2023, which is located in your packets. Okay. And everything checks out. Let's move on to item number 3, approval of previous board minutes of November 21st. But before we do that, just want to note for the record that we were actually also supposed to approve the minutes of October 24th that we had tabled at that meeting. However, we didn't get it on the agenda, and I don't believe there's anything substantive on that really needs ratification at this point. So we'll just push that to next meeting and ensure we get that on the agenda for the public announcements. So just make sure that we put that out there. So let's now put that on as notes to that under item 3. Let's move on to the previous board minutes of November 21st, which is also located in your packets for review.
Do you know the name?
And any edits.
It's the one minor change on page 6 of 8. In the last paragraph, it's the connection favors. Correction on the call to order. It was not like Chair Sanchez that chaired the meeting. It was Chairman John Rivera.
I'm sorry, what was that?
First item, call to order.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, there's no other corrections. May I get a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the previous board minutes of November 21st, 2023 with minor correction.
Thank you very much. There's a motion on the floor. May I get a second? Second. Thank you, Commissioner Rice, for the second. Any further discussion on the matter? If not, may I call for the vote? All in favor, please say aye or raise your right hand. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you very much. Motion passes unanimously for the approval of board minutes of November 21st, 2023, subject to correction. Moving on to item number 4, new business, resolution number FY 2024-002. A resolution approving the fiscal year 2024 Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program, utility allowance schedule, and additional allowances for reasonable accommodations for persons with disabilities. Madam Director, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Accompanying the resolution, there was also a memorandum to the board from Norma Nicholas, the Section 8 Administrator. And she, details the reason for the 2024 utility allowance schedule. So maybe if I may defer to Norma, is she there?
Absolutely. Yeah, she's in the room. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Floor is
Good
yours.
afternoon, Chairman Rivera, Vice Chair Sanchez, and members of the board. It's that time of the year again where we have to set our utility allowance schedule, and it's mandated by HUD regulation 24 CFR 982.517. And basically the utility allowance, because part of the Housing Assistance Program include an allowance for our tenants, or I'm sorry, our participants. We have to establish one every year. So if you've gone through the resolution, basically we provide basic utility allowance for cooking, water heating, air conditioning, and of course, water, sewer, and trash collection. So what basically we do every year is we review the rates that the utility companies provide to us. And based on the formula that we use, it's with HUD to determine what our utility allowance should be. We also base it on the budget and stuff. One of the things that for this year's or for FY24, there was an increase in the fuel recovery charge for GPA. So that's what really prompted the requirement to change. It's more than 10% of an increase from the last time we revised the schedule. Other than that, there was a slight decrease in gas, but LP gas. So that's the change that we made. So if you look at, I guess it's on page 468. This is the breakdown of what the allowance would look like, or what we would be using to determine the tenant's utility allowance. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer it, and so is Nicole.
It's out of curiosity, right? Because I don't know how these numbers necessarily translate without any perspective. Have these allowances been substantial or enough for our folks, or have we seen these?
Well, for our tenants, it's never enough, but what we're doing is just providing for the very basic utilities.
Sure.
And what HUD regulation actually tells us to do is to survey what's out there.
Hmm.
And that's why we work with the utility companies to determine what's the average going rate. And
Right.
then we also use the formula that's provided to
Provided.
us with that. So if you ask a participant right now, they're gonna say, no, you're giving me way too much, I mean, way too little, but you know, we have to find the average
Right.
for the most basic utility allowance.
So I'm taking out, and I guess I'm just trying to get a baseline, right? So if you take out, you know, the variances and or the different uses, right? But if you had a standard use, just basic, right? And you had this allowance, if you could give me some perspective, how much of this allowance actually helps that? I mean, so for example, right? I mean, if you had an average person that goes in, this allowance really covers up to 80% of it, right? Or 60% of it. What is, do you have an idea or a pulse on what that
What we
does?
look at, Sarah, basically is what they use for cooking, water heating. Basically, if you look at the schedule there,
Hmm.
it's broken down. So we look at how much it per household by the bedroom size, how much it's gonna cost on average for cooking for the month, heating, water heating, air conditioning. And it differs for some families because like the larger the bedroom size, of course, the more usage because there's more people in that household.
So are these dollar amounts on here that you're increasing, or this is the portion that you're gonna cover that GHURA will cover, or Section 8 will cover?
Well, how this works is when the families come in, we look at what's in the unit. So it could be gas, water heating, it could be electric. So when it's broken down, the housing specialist would list down what's in the unit. And then based on these amounts, that's what we plug in and we determine what their utility allowance would be for that year.
This is a fixed rate for the whole year, this doesn't fluctuate. based on
For
consumption.
persons with disability, if you look at the back, we're required to provide them reasonable accommodations. So if you look at the list, let's say for instance, they have a power wheelchair and they need to charge that. We add an extra $40 for their basic utility.
And then your kilowatt hours is based on the GPA's consumption or purchase of fuels, is that what it is?
Yes, the rates and the whatever they're charging the customers out there. That's what we look at.
So that's your formula, you do it on a monthly
No,
basis?
actually, there's more to it because generally outside covers everything.
Right.
But we're looking at just basic utilities, how much they use for cooking, how much they use to charge up their water heater, their air conditioning and such. If we go with what's going on out there, covering the average usage per person, this will be much higher. But we're trying to keep it within our budget and also the most basic.
So just so that I also have a good understanding, right?
Mhm.
So if I owned a studio or if I lived in a studio, okay, I could probably get the assistance of every single, section here, $212. A
Sure,
month, right?
if that's what's in the unit.
Unit, yes, okay.
So
And what I did was I based it on cooking for like, I have an
Mhm.
electric stove. So air conditioning, I do have an air conditioner,
Mhm.
right? For water heating, I have an electric water heater. And then of course, I think for most people, water and sewer,
mhm.
trash is just, if it's
Those
enough
are basic,
complex
yeah.
and. Okay, I usually.
For those that landlords cover their utilities, they don't get an allowance.
Okay, which is included in their rent, right? Okay.
One note. So it's done annually, or if there's a 10% change.
And, okay. So this-
10%, right? That's the
Yes.
number.
Okay.
10% is the marker. So last year, I believe it was last year, when there was a change in utility, it wasn't 10%, so it didn't trigger a reevaluation. So that's the threshold, either annually or a 10% change in the rate.
So this one will be our annual.
So this will be our annual, yeah,
Based on the last time we revised,
yes.
because there was, we revisit this every year. And then there was one year when I realized that GPA made changes because their LEAC kept going up and down. And I'm like, wow, we didn't make that change. But it's from the last time we revised. And normally we have to revise it at least annually, once a year.
Okay. Okay.
So do you want me to proceed with reading the resolution?
Yes, please.
Okay, resolution number FY 2024-002. Resolution approving the fiscal year 2024 Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program Utility Allowance Schedule and additional allowances for reasonable accommodations for persons with disabilities. Whereas pursuant to 24 CFR 982.517, the authority is required to maintain a utility allowance schedule for all tenant-paid utilities under the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. Whereas the requisite of the regulation is the utility allowance schedule must be reviewed annually and revised to reflect changes of 10% or more of any utility rate from the last revised schedule. Whereas pursuant to 24 CFR 982.517E, the PHA must also approve a utility allowance which is higher than the amounts for the standard utility allowance to accommodate persons with disabilities. Whereas the Fair Housing Act defines reasonable accommodation as a change, exception, or adjustment to a rule, policy, practice, or service that may be necessary for a person with a disability to have equal opportunity to use and enjoy a dwelling, including public and common use of spaces. Whereas the adoption of additional amounts is necessary to reasonably accommodate disabled participants who utilize medical equipment such as a ventilator, respiratory machines, powered wheelchairs, or motorized mobility devices, chair lifts, CPAP, etc. Whereas 24 CFR 982.517D requires the authority to use the appropriate utility allowance for the actual unit size of each dwelling unit leased by the participant family under the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. Whereas the authority's timely maintenance and implementation of the utility allowance schedule impacts the authority's performance under the Section 8 Management Program, CMAP, as delineated in 24 CFR 985.3D. Whereas the approved utility allowance schedule shall be applied to HAP contracts effectuated for calendar year 2024, and therefore be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners reviewed and approved the FY 2024 Section 8 Utility Allowance Schedule and additional allowances for higher rent for reasonable accommodation for persons with disabilities.
All right, thank you very much. Having the resolution read, may I get a motion on the floor?
When I motion to approve resolution number FY 2024-002, resolution approving the fiscal year 2024 secondary housing choice voucher program utility allowance schedule and additional allowances for reasonable accommodations for persons with disabilities.
Thank you, Vice Chair Sanchez, for the motion. May I get a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Divya, for the second. Any further discussion on the matter? Right, hearing and seeing none, may call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, thank you very much. Resolution number FY 2024-002 passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Commissioners. Moving on to resolution number FY 2024-003. The resolution approving fiscal year 2024 Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program payment standards. Madam Director, is that you?
Okay, thank you. I think maybe what I'll do is I'll read the resolution first, and then if you have any questions, we have Ms. Norma there to answer the questions for you.
Sure, please proceed.
Resolution number FY 2024-003. Resolution approving fiscal year 2024 Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program payment standards. Whereas 24 CFR 982.5033 requires public housing agencies administering the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher HCV program to establish a payment standards schedule with a single payment standard amount for each unit size based on the area's fair market rent, or FMR. Whereas 24 CFR 982.505 requires GHURA to utilize the payment standards schedule to calculate the maximum monthly housing assistance payment for each participant family under the Section 8 HCV program. The payment standard for the family shall be the lower of A, the payment standard for the family unit size, or B, the payment standard amount for the size of the dwelling unit rented by the family. Whereas 24 CFR 985.3I requires public housing agencies to review and adjust its voucher payment standard amounts to ensure it is within the basic range that is not less than 90% and not more than 110 of the area's fair market rent. The FY 2024 payment standards are based on the FY 2024 published fair market rent for Guam as illustrated below. The 2024 fair market rent for 0 bedrooms is $1,206. For 1 bedroom, $1,326. For a 2 bedroom, $1,742. A 3 bedroom is at $2,455. A 4 bedroom is at $2,956. A 5 bedroom is at $3,399. And a 6 bedroom is at $3,841. Whereas, in consideration of the FY 2024 Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program budget, the increased fuel charges added to the cost of utilities, and the average going rates for rent in the private rental market, the proposed payment standards schedules are set between 100 to 104% and not more than 120% for reasonable accommodation for persons with disabilities in accordance with Section 102D of the Housing Opportunity Through Modernization Act of 2016. The 2024 payment standards for the HCV and special purpose voucher programs is for 0 bedrooms, $1,206 at 100%, 1 bedroom at $1,353, 102%, 2 bedroom, $1,794 at 103%, 3 bedroom, $2,529 at 103%, 4 bedroom, $3,045 at 103%, 5 bedroom, $3,501 at 103%, 6 bedroom, $3,995 at 104%. The 2024 payment standards for reasonable accommodation for persons with disabilities is 0 bedrooms, $1,447 at 120%, 1 bedroom, $1,591 at 120%, 2 bedrooms, $2,090 at 120%, 3 bedrooms, $2,946 at 120%, 4 bedrooms, $3,547 at 120%. 5 bedrooms, $4,079 at 120%. And 6 bedrooms, $4,610 at 120%. Whereas the approved payment standards schedule shall be applied to HAP contracts effectuated for calendar year 2024. And therefore, be it resolved that the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority Board of Commissioners approve the payment standards for fiscal year 2024. And Ms. Norma is there to answer questions, but she did provide another memorandum to the board dated November 13th regarding, a little bit more information as well on the FY 2024 Section 8 HCV payment standards.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Yeah,
Yeah.
very straightforward.
All right, if there's no questions, we're not going to put this Norm in the hot seat. May I call for the vote. I'm sorry, may I call for the motion.
I will make a motion to approve resolution number, I'm so sorry, hold on one second. Resolution number FY 2024-003, approving fiscal year 2024, Section 8, Housing Chores Voucher Program Payment Standards.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Villa. May I get a second on the motion? Okay, thank you, Commissioner Rice, for the second. Any further discussions on the matter? Right, hearing and seeing none, may I call for now for the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. Motion passes unanimously for resolution number FY 2024-003. Resolution approving fiscal year 2024 Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program payment standards as noted in the resolution. Thank you, Ms. Roma, for putting this together.
Thank
Thank you, Ms. Roma. Thank you. And then forward, thank you. Making this easy for us. Right. Moving on to item number 3, change order number 1. Now we move on to the fun stuff. GHURA 23-13, a renovation of 8 Guma Tranquilidad units. Madam Director. You're up.
Thank you, Chairman. And we do have, after I go through the change order request, we do have Sunny available for any questions that you may have. So change order number 1, IFB number GHURA-23-13. Genesis Tech Corporation has an ongoing contract for renovation of 8 Guma Tranquilidad units. The A&E staff conducted a site visit at Guma Tranquilidad in Tuman following a change order request from the contractor. Upon assessment of the area, AE staff had concluded a need for additional work. The original contract was $224,450. Contract notice to proceed date was August 14th, 2023. There were 0 changes approved, and the contract duration was 160 calendar days. The adjusted contract amount, none had been done, and the contract completion date was January 21st, 2024. This change order is for the amount of $13,610, and the extension for this change order is 21 days, so that the adjusted contract amount is $238,060, with a new completion date of February 11th, 2024. The cost analysis and justification are as follows. Number 1, the mobilization and disposal of $1,000. Preparation for existing roof surfaces for units D5 and D4. existing coating to be removed and cleaned to be suitable for new coating at $1,330. Correct ponding water locations for smooth flow into roof drains with use of epoxy, no shrink grout topping where required to build a slope at $1,330. Number 4, deteriorated roof coating and existing roof panel joints exposed at a cost of $1,000. And number 5, provide new elastomeric waterproofing roof coating 45 mil thick minimum for a total area of roof to be coated is 1,523 square feet. And the new roof coating color will match existing roof coating at a cost of $8,950 for the total of $13,610 for this change order. Based on AE staff's review, we are requesting board approval for a change order / contract modification with Genesis Tech Corporation in the amount of $13,610, as well as an extension construction time of 21 days for the date of completion to be moved to February 11th, 2024 for the additional work stated above. AE has determined the cost proposals is reasonable and acceptable.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you. Excellent. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Holidays. Sonny, quick question. What you off the top of your head, do you remember the original RFP date for this project? Yeah, sure, I'm sorry. No worries.
August 14th.
August 14th.
The notice of receipt was issued August 14th. 23.
The request for bid, do you know that?
For 23-13. We will get that. We can get that.
Could you feel that? Yeah. This change order, Sonny, was the. Did we know what contributed to these 5 items that need to be addressed in terms of were they not? The rest were they not funded initially? Well, the contract was awarded. I need to remind us that students for the track the project a lot closer. Sure, thank you.
So the damage to the roof is actually weathering, just, the normal
Element.
deterioration and stuff.
Yeah.
And, especially pretty close to the inside, so a lot
Sure.
of deterioration from rain, weathering, cyclones, stuff like.
So, yeah. Any of this contribute from now on?
Could possibly be because of the weathering, right? From the day.
Contributing factor.
But every day, earthquakes that happen on Guam, and just the rain.
If I'm looking at the diagram correctly, it's 2 different units, but it's only that the half of the houses that face each other. Is that what it looks like?
So what it is 2 units that are joined
Right.
together. They're side by side.
And it's at the point of adjournment that where
Yes.
both are affected.
Yes, and so what happens is because of the damage to the roof that leaks into that.
So this change order, is it just for these 2 units and all the other units are okay, or were they part of the original contract, or the original contract?
So how Blumentritt operates with renovation is that once, so like B5 is a unit that is being renovated. The person that lives at B5 will be moving to a manager's unit, and then the work is done. So for the previous ones, there was no issue, but we were not sure. We looked over the other ones. I know Andy went over to check them and they look okay for the next few, units that are going to be renovated. But that doesn't stop when the contractor actually does the work, if he finds anything else that's wrong. And that's what happened with D5 and D4.
Also, it's like on an as needed, basis. Okay.
And the voting is a 5-year minimum warranty.
Yes, sir.
Good luck, right? What is our experience with that area and having to do this type of repair or recoding? Do we have a gauge on the timeline for that? Just on average,
You know, like with the specifications that Andrew has provided,
Mhm.
that it should last for more than 5 years. And if not, then the contractor has to repair that.
What is our average experience though? Just curious.
I think we were done.
Right,
Well,
but this is Guma Track, right? Right next to the ocean, which is what you're saying. So I'm just kind of curious as to,
I can't really.
what kind of the weathering, right?
or
impact?
right? Yeah, I can speak to the UOG,
Hmm.
because we've done many recordings. And oftentimes when it's applied correctly.
Yeah.
Case in point, we did 1.4, sorry, I shouldn't say we. There was a project for the field house
Uh-huh.
that was applied back in 2010. The field house roof was renovated, recoded at 2010. It's only now being repaired and redone. So it's about a 10-year
Okay.
10-year lifespan. And you know how close field house is to the water.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah, I was just curious.
if done correctly, it does last.
Okay. I don't have any more questions. Does anybody have any more questions? Okay, if not, may I get a motion on the floor, please?
Chairman, I mentioned change order number 1, -23-13, renovation of 8 quad-curtain units. Subject to review the benefit. That's it.
Okay, so that's motion on the floor for GHURA 23-13, right, for renovation of 8 Guma Tranquilidad units, right? This is going to Genesis Corp in the amount of 13,610. Okay, thank you very much, Vice Chair. May I get second on the motion? Okay, thank you, Commissioner Rice, for the second. Any further discussion in the matter?
No.
No, okay, thank you. If not, seeing none, may I call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Motion passes unanimously for change order number 1, GHURA 23-13, for renovation of 8 Guma Tranquilidad units to Genesis Corporation in the amount of 13,610. Change order number 2, GHURA -8-25-2022-AMP, the replacement of AMP4 maintenance shop extension. Madam Director.
Thank you, Chairman. Change order number 2 for IFB number GHURA-08-25-2022-AMP4. Genesis Tech Corp has an ongoing contract for replacement of AMP4 maintenance shop extension. AE staff conducted a site visit at the AMP4 in Toto following a change order request from the contractor. Upon assessment of the area, AE staff had concluded a need for additional work. The original contract amount was $108,000 with a contract notice to proceed date of October 9th, 2023. Changes approved were 1, the contract duration, 190 calendar days. Adjusted contract amount was $127,980 with a contract completion date of April 16th, 2024. This change order amount is a request for $2,500 with an extension to this change order the original completion date. Adjusted contract amount will now be $130,480. The completion date is still the original completion date of April 16th, 2024. Cost analysis and justification. Retracement survey of Site 6 portion 2 corners only, southwest. Request for property marking point from the Department of Public Works was at a cost of $2,500. Based on AE staff's review, we are requesting board approval for a change order / contract modification with Genesis Tech Corporation in the amount of $2,500 for the additional work stated above. AE has determined the cost proposal is reasonable and acceptable. And Mr. Sunny is available for any questions you may have.
Very much. Commissioners, any questions? Okay. Thank you very much. Hearing no discussion, this is pretty straightforward. May I get a motion on the floor?
I will make a motion to approve change order number 2 for GHURA .08-25-2022. AMP number 4, replacement of AMP number 4 maintenance shop extension for $2,500.
Thank you very much. May I get a second? Thank you, Vice Chair, for the second. Any further discussion on the issue at hand? Hearing seen none, may I call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you very much. Change order number 2, GHURA .08-25-2022 for AMP 4. The replacement of AMP 4 maintenance shop extension in the amount of $2,500 passes unanimously. Thank you, Commissioners. Moving on to item number 5. That's change order number 1. Is that change order? That is change order number 1. For GHURA -23-03-CDBG-5TREN for telefocal Renaissance concrete repair and renovation. Madam Director, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Change order number 1 for IFB number GHURA -23-03-CDBG-5TREN. Genesis Tech Corporation has an ongoing contract for telefocal Renaissance concrete repair and renovation. AE staff conducted a site visit at telefocal Renaissance units following a change order request from the contractor. Upon assessment of the area, AE staff had concluded a need for additional work. The original contract amount is $245,000. The contract notice to proceed date was May 15th, 2023. Changes approved 0, contract duration of 210 calendar days. The adjusted contract amount, none were applicable at the time. Contract completion date, December 15th, and I'm sorry, I believe this needs to say December 15th, the year 2023. Is that correct, Mr. Sunny?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, December 15th, 2023. This change order is for $22,800. Extension for this change order is 0. Adjusted contract amount is $267,800, and new completion date is not applicable. Cost analysis and justification. Unit 1 is a 2-bedroom. Number 1, it was to remove and replace closet and 2 sets of closets. They were closet partitions, shelves, doors, hardware, and wood jambs, new to match the existing in kind at $4,800. Number 2, to remove and replace bedroom doors with door jamb and bathroom door with door jamb, new to solid door at $1,800. Unit 3, a 3-bedroom. Number 1, to remove and replace closet, 2 sets of closets, closet partitions, shelves, doors, hardware, and wood jambs, new to match the existing in kind at $7,200. And number 2, to remove and replace bedroom doors with door jamb and bathroom door with door jamb, new to solid door at $2,400. And then unit number 5, a 2-bedroom, remove and replace closet 2 sets, closet partitions, shelves, doors, hardware, and wood jambs, new to match the existing in kind at $4,800. And number 2, remove and replace bedroom doors with door jamb and bathroom door with door jamb, new to solid door at $1,800 for a total change order request of $22,800. Based on AE staff's review, we are requesting the board approval for a change order / contract modification with Genesis Tech Corporation in the amount of $22,800 for the additional work stated above. A&E has determined the cost proposal is reasonable and acceptable. And once again, Mr. Sunny is available for any questions that you may have.
I have a question for you, Sonny.
Yes, Mr. Commissioner.
These photos here, are these, so we're redoing the houses? I mean, they look in really bad shape. I mean, this wasn't like this when the tenants were there, was it? I mean,
Yeah,
were they,
Yeah, the tenants, these houses have remained vacant for quite some time.
They're not
Okay.
public.
Right, it's not
Okay.
public. Sir.
thank you. That's the only thing.
You're welcome, sir.
If I may, only because we're on the record, yeah, just to be very clear, these are not public housing. These were old Renaissance housing
Staff housing.
Staff housing. that was in government circulation for a while, but was really unkept, unutilized, and returned to GHURA in the conditions that we're trying to correct today.
Even worse.
Yeah, it's been quite some time.
Okay, that's good. I mean, it's good to be able to reclaim them and then reuse them, of course, but
Yeah.
I was just concerned about that part. I'm like, wait, this is looking terrible.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I want to make that clear. We would not allow for tenant conditions in public housing to get like that. And I think that was your,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Circa 75. 75.
Yeah, circa 75.
Okay. Well, it's about time. Okay.
Thank you, Sonny.
Any further discussion, Commissioner? So what will happen, Dee, after this is renovated?
After it's renovated, there's some work we have to do with HUD in terms of whether or not they're gonna find us in compliant. I think they were renovated with CDBG long ago, right? And the program, the government of Guam agency that had it,
Right.
let it degrade. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kathy, the unfortunate situation is you can't reuse federal money to fix what they've already fixed. And so we're using other resources to get it back into compliance, and I think that's the main thing. So when we're able to get it back into compliance, then that opens up other door avenues.
Okay,
Ideally, it'll stay as affordable rental.
okay,
Ideally, that's where we're always aiming for.
sure, okay.
It's just for the
How old? Sorry.
1975 was the original construction. And so what we had to deal with, especially as it being potentially affordable housing,
Yeah,
whether rental, for sale, however Kurt's gonna use it for, or rental, is that it's so old, there was lead concern. And so all the wiring and all the electrical had to be stripped and welding had to be fixed, new electrical having to be run, so it's been a little costly endeavor, but we're moving forward.
okay. Super. Okay,
What about these other two units that are part of the plan? Are they not part of the renovation?
They're actually under a separate contract.
Okay.
So what we did was we contracted the different units
Okay.
separately because we wanted to try to move quickly to get them back into compliance. And so the strategic on our part to try to get it out there. The intent was to have multiple contractors bid and work on it simultaneously.
Okay.
Sooner than later.
Yep.
yeah, hopefully we can get them back up. Okay, may I call for the motion on the floor?
Chairman, I motion to approve GHURA -23-03 CDBG -5 TREN Telefocal Renaissance Concrete Repair and Renovation. Change order number 1 in the amount of $22,800 or $22,800 and this is Tech Corporation.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair, for the motion. May I get a second?
We'll second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Didier, for the second. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, may I call for the vote? All in favor, please say aye, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you very much. Change order number 1 for GHURA -23-03 CDBG -5 TREN for Telefocal Renaissance Concrete Repair and Renovation to Genesis Corp for the amount of $22,800 for the change order number 1 is approved unanimously. Thank you very much. Commissioners, moving on to item number 5, correspondence and reports. We have a travel report. Madam Director.
Yes, thank you very much. And I just want to, preface it by talking about, you have documentation both from Norma Nicholas, our Section 8 administrator, and then from Nicole Alejandro, the program coordinator 3, who were the 2 GHURA staff that went to attend. It was supposed to be the annual Section 8 administrators meeting hosted by HUD. Unfortunately, the meeting was canceled due to the recent Maui disaster just before that meeting. But because airfare tickets were already purchased and were not refundable, HUD invited GHURA to meet to discuss the following issues: the FY 2023 Comprehensive Compliance Monitoring Review findings, and 2, GHURA's performance in leasing and funding utilization, and 3, Inspire, which is the new inspection standards. And then number 4, the special voucher program updates. So I will defer to Miss Norma regarding, the travel that she and Miss Nicole went on for this meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Liz. Basically, it was a pretty good meeting with HUD, and we started off by covering or discussing the CCMR findings because they were out here in May and they did an audit of our our programs. And for Section 8, I can only speak for Section 8. Basically, the concern that they had was the VAWA. And they believe that it should be accessible, easily accessible for all housing programs under GHURA. That includes public housing, CPDs, housing programs, and so forth. So because we do have stuff in there for VAWA, for at least for our program, Section 8, but they wanted something that's comprehensive that covers all the programs. So what we did basically was we devised a link and it will take you straight to the frequently asked questions, the forms that's required for each of the programs. So that we did, and the other findings that they had or concerns was the family self-sufficiency program. Now, the FSS program was established back in the late 1990s, and we don't have documents, employees change, and so we were having problems with matching our numbers. They're saying they only have I think it's 114 mandatory slots, and we were saying no, it's less than that. But at the end of the day, it's what we can prove. And since we cannot provide the documentation because they're already disposed, I mean, these are since 1997, 98, and also system has changed. And the last time we did a systems change, it was in 2016. And according to MIS, some of those numbers didn't transfer over. And when we went back to look at the status on the old system, they were blank. So at the end of the day, we can only justify 124 mandatory slots. The other findings that they were concerned about was that there was no documentation for the referencing our project-based program up in the LIHTC Summertown. That's because when we had that incident with the FBI investigation, they confiscated all our documents, and they wanted us to actually recreate. And well, personally, I don't think we have that authority to do so. But the thing that's tying us, at least our program, our Section 8 program, to that to the LIHTC program is the AHAP, or the housing assistance contract that we have with Cortec and GFFI. That we have, and we present it to them. But that was one of the findings. The other one, and the last one that I can looked into, was that they pointed out in our admin plan that they're for us to redetermine rent for the project base, there should be at least a 5%, and that's an error. So we needed to correct that. It's actually 10%. Okay, the second one that we will discuss was GHURA's performance, at least Section 8's performance. And Audrey, are you there? Audrey?
I am.
Put up the dashboard.
Sure.
So anyway, when we were there, Jesse Wu, Marika Bertram, and Desiree Moore, and of course the VASH coordinator, Ms. Rochelle Russo was there. And we went through, this is a device that HUD recently established, and it's pretty good. It's the public can go in there anytime to see how our program is working out. So if you go to the next page, Audrey. Okay. This basically is a summary of the dashboard, and it just shows you nationwide how we're performing. And there's a slot up there where you can choose the housing authority that you want to look at. Where is there? What you're seeing right now is nationwide.
Okay.
So Audrey, can you just put GHURA up there? Oh, it's up there already. Sorry. So basically what is showing, it says 34 million is expenditure, and this is as of September 2023. So out of our budget of 42 million, we've already expended that much. So and on the other side of the this page, it tells you how many we've leased out and how many are not leased out. So right now we're 96.46% leased of our vouchers, and the per unit cost is 1,517.84 cents. And I can't see what.
Can you see that, Miss Normal?
Unit. Sorry. What does the 17 say?
Oh. That means the blind leading the blind. Hold on
It
one
says
second.
leasing
Potential. Leasing
Oh,
potential.
okay. So we needed 17 vouchers leased in order for us to be fully leased. So can you go to budget, Audrey?
Okay. Which one is?
Above budget.
Budget and yeah. So we have 42.7 million for our budget, and we have 5.2 million in reserves, and our reserve is at 11.2%. So you can access this at any time. You just go in. I provided the link, but you can also just Google HCV dashboard. And there's one also for public housing. So it's a great tool. I use it to kind of gauge where we're at, if we're improving or such. Right now, GHURA is doing pretty good. We're like 95 or 96%, and the national average is like 80 or 90, right? 80%. So we're operating above the national standards or national average.
How often is this updated of the dashboard?
As
Quarterly?
we're like 2 months behind,
Okay.
but
HUD is 2 months
Months
behind.
behind.
yes,
Yeah.
sorry.
You guys are good.
Right, so what they do basically is when we submit our voucher management reports, they get that data, and also there's this thing called 2-year projection tool that we use with HUD, and we put in our numbers based on our stats here. We send it to them, and they extrapolate all these data and stick it to this page. Okay, so it's pretty good. I think so. Yep. Thank you, Audrey. So the last, oh, we also discussed the special voucher programs, and their primary concern was the emergency housing voucher, because in September 30, we couldn't reissue the turnover voucher. It was a temporary program. This was established right after the COVID incident. And basically, we were wondering what's going to happen with those HCV. So we still really don't know, at least I don't know what they're planning to do. But when we were there, Desiree did mention that they're across the nation, they're seeing how many vouchers are not leased up, and they might redistribute those to the housing authorities that are actually leasing out. We were just over leased. So we leased up all of us.
Nice.
And last, we were concerned about the Inspire, and that's basically the inspection tool that is supposed to replace HQS, for at least for Section 8, it is HQS. We were supposed to implement in October, but they pushed that back another year.
So to clarify, they allowed the PHA to decide if they want more time to implement, if we're taking that extra time, specific for Section 8. Inspire is the standard for the rest of GURA. Only Section 8 was provided that extension, primarily because they're dealing with private landlords, right? And they're needing to get into compliance with Inspire. But for public housing, anything owned under CDBG, CPD is all Inspire.
Well, there's a lot to be done to implement this program, like getting the employees or the staff trained, also to get the software needed to operate this program, and to educate landlords, basically, because we're dealing with a third party here, and we can't just come in and use this standard without them knowing.
Okay.
That's all I have. It was a good training. I don't know if Nicole has anything to say about it, but that's in a nutshell.
Okay. Mr. Chair, before we, before Nicole, so just on the FSS, right, to be clear, when we did the audit, when Ms. Norma's team did the audit, what we could prove was resulted in the reversion back to 124. That means two things. One, it means we have more slots to fill. However, as you saw based on the CMAQ, because we used the audited report, we're still a top performer even on FSS. So it just means we went back a few steps, but we're still in a top performing category for FSS. Just means we have more work to do.
Despite losing back.
Yeah, and when, you know, even though the program is real old, the loss of records for whatever reason, records that we don't have, we're still consistent with the record keeping requirement, which is up to a certain amount of years. So it was just an unfortunate situation and how that was able to be reconciled. And so, you know, lessons learned from there, doesn't negatively affect the program. We just had to kind of go with what we could audit and reconcile, so there's no more disagreement with what we're saying and with what HUD's saying. Now we're speaking on one voice.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Nicole,
Just one thing to add, and you know, Ms. Norma had covered a lot of agenda items that we had out there in Honolulu, but one of the things is, you know, today HUD uses many different systems to do PHA payments. They did mention that in the near future, they'll be using PIC data, and which is what they are utilizing for that dashboard information, which is also really interesting because that's where I pull my reports for CMAP on information and data. That's how I build out my indicators. So I think that would be the only thing I really add. And then also trying to see how I can utilize the dashboard and align that up with any of my CMAP indicators, just to be sure that I'm utilizing a tool that HUD has put a lot of investment in, and then also aligning it to what, you know, how GURA evaluates the Section 8 program.
So I want to echo real quick, Chair. With the PIC data, okay, so the dashboard is for all Indian public housing, that's Section 8 and public housing. The PIC data back in May, we went back management to look at what our PIC count was, how the reports were being pulled, and we discovered that based on all of the reports on PIC data, we had over 500 different errors. And these are minor things that just inconsistencies that need to be corrected. And so kudos to Public
Mhm.
Housing, Section 8 and MIS, who worked very quickly. So this was around April, May, who worked within 2 months, got that down to 1%. And that's what they were basically very happy with when they went to go out, because across the board, GURA's pick data went down. So it's more reflective of the operations that we're doing, making those corrections. And so now MIS is able to pull the broader report to make sure we're not missing any pick information, especially because that's good, how funding is going to be determined
Yes.
primarily for Section 8.
We have the least error now, and I think the last time I checked, it was like 0.335 error. But when I checked with Joyce up at MIS, she said some of those errors is a system error, and they're working with the vendor to correct it.
Okay. Yes, they still are. Okay, yeah, HUD vendor. Okay, well, thank you for the updates, appreciate that.
Okay, moving on to item number 6. 5-6, yeah. Executive report.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Before we go into the project updates, the only thing I wanted to mention is Miss Audrey is going to share a screen. It's just for your information. We did have to submit our citizen-centered report for fiscal year 2022. So it is on our website, and it has a lot of the information regarding what happened during that fiscal year, and really has our fiscal year 2022 revenues, our expenses, and challenges and outlook page. So just thought I would let you see that, so that any questions you may have, please feel free to let us know. The deputy director really did a great job with putting this report together. So I don't know, Dee Dee, if there's anything more you would like to say about the citizen-centered report for FY 2022.
Thank you, Ms. Liz. I think we could just zoom on the bottom of page 1, just to show our highlights. So then how we're reporting the data and the recommendations based from the AGA. We want to create something really citizen-centric and just give the bottom line up front, right? And so if you look at that, we are an agency. We have a workforce of 110 back in 2022. That's 78 in public housing, 19 in what's that saying?
See that.
Community
development.
Yeah. There we go. A little bit more. Will it give us more? Okay, so 78 in public housing, 19 in community development, and 13 in administration. Community development, so you understand, that's based on HUD. HUD looks at, RP&E, CD is all one category for them under community development. So we wanted to match that. So 110 employees. Of that, we house on average 14,500 people at any given time. And what's that? Public, the 591. Can you zoom in a little bit more? It's the glare.
Services granted.
Public services granted, $591,448. Projects funded, $3,075,000. Projects completed, 6. Projects proposed and designed, 12. And then overall funding GURA brings into to Guam, $64,444,721. So what we were trying to show is the ratio.
Yeah.
We are a very lean agency. So for the small amount of employees that we have, we deal with big money, big grants. That's how much we bring into the community.
Great picture.
That's per annum, right?
That's on average per annum.
Yeah. Right. Thank you for your work on that. Right. That's a great picture.
So that 64 million doesn't include tenant rents. So any money we generate on Guam, either through program income, tenant rent, or even the coin machines at Guma Tranquilidad, that's not covered in that amount. That's 64 million in outside money we're bringing into the island.
All right.
And that was just for fiscal year 2022.
Yep.
All right.
And 42 is from section
Yeah, but 42 is from section 8, yeah. 42 is from section 8.
It sounds like we may need a pie chart right now.
I mean, we're one agency, right?
Who's counting?
Who's counting? But there's some, it'll show it in other areas there. So we have, we talk about section 8 leases. And if you notice what we shared with the public too, for all Indian public housing, section 8 and public housing are the links to the HUD dashboard, so the public can see
Nice.
our performance.
Yeah.
And a couple more highlights, if you go up to public housing, first, you have one up, please.
The other way, yeah.
Yeah, no, up, the other way.
Down,
Other
down, down.
Other
The other.
Page,
Hulu,
page 1.
Page down. Page up.
other way, please.
Page one.
Page 1.
for Audrey.
This one.
Almost there. Two, almost there.
Okay, sorry, sir.
No worries, no worries.
Right? She's not responding.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, so physical occupancy for public housing. When you look at it for that year, on average, there's a 91% occupancy. 97% was the adjusted rate. So when you account for things that are under mod, that are legitimate vacancies, that comes up to 97%. So for fiscal year 2022, when you use the dashboard, so we use the dashboard in management to pull other metrics that are important for us for our management analysis, right? You have your 2 month, your occupancy, things that come up. But what I wanted to highlight was we were above the national average of 94%. And out of the nation, we held an average occupancy rate of the 8 highest in the country. Of course, we don't have as many as some, but if you're talking percentages,
Right.
We held the 8 highest. And that was by taking the occupancy rate month over month for every state for their public housing, and then doing the average over the 12-month period. And so that's 54 jurisdictions. And then for section 8, if we can scroll down, please, Audrey, page.
Am I going the right way?
Off that.
Bottom of page 2,
Where? Sorry, guys.
Go to page 2, Art.
Okay, I'm gonna have to do this, okay?
2.
I have to do that for me to see, because
Oh, I see. Okay.
I can't see anything. Okay, is this the page?
Yeah. Actually, all right, I'll just highlight it. Number 3 in the nation was our section 8. That's out of 53 jurisdictions, so 53 states and territories that have section 8 programs. In terms of average occupancy percentage throughout the year, our section 8 had the 3rd highest in the nation.
Let's see what it looks like.
2 other jurisdictions beat us out.
Showing number.
22
For now.
20.
For now. For now. All right. Well, thank you very much. That's a great update, right? And I'm glad that this information is available to the public. Hopefully we can encourage the public to take a look, right, and see what your GHURA is doing for you. All right. Okay. Madam Director?
Okay, thank you for that. So now we can move on to the project updates. Mr. Sunny, I believe you have the Women's Treatment Center first.
Thank you, Madam Director. I appreciate it. Let me ask Ms. Audrey to go ahead and make the presentation. Good. All right. Good afternoon, commissioners, Mr. Deputy and Madam Director, and thank you again for allowing me to make this presentation. And so before I begin, I'd like to make just a quick introduction to Mr. Ray Del Carmen, who's sitting here next to me. He is the Vice President of Inland Builders. And if he has a few words to say about the project, he's kind of like my fellow compatriot right now. We kind of pulled and pushed one another just to get where we are at this time. Really?
Oh. Thank you for, commissioners. Happy to be here. Just wanted to, just gonna say they're almost there. You know, it's really been almost exactly 1 year since our H2 arrived on island. So at that time, when it came in December of 2022, basically we're able to pour the slab on grade, with the foundation. So you know, about 12 months later, here we are. We're about to submit our documentation for occupancy to the government. So, you know, I just wanted to applaud working with Sonny. Has been, you know, without him and with the administration's assistance, you know, couldn't have gotten here. And we just wanted to just say that we're, you know, practically almost there.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you. I do want to mention that this is a historical project in many ways. One of them being that this is one of 2 projects that were identified in the NDAA. The other one that was already scheduled in the NDAA was, of course, the Guam Cultural Repository, while this one was inserted into the 2022 NDAA through, of course, the help of Governor Liu at the time. But and if we didn't get that support, you probably wouldn't see this project into fruition. Yeah, that's something that GHURA is or should be recognized for that effort, because right now you can only get H2s if your project is in the base. That's the rule of thumb. You cannot get any H2s if your project is located outside the base. And mind you, GHURA, we have one, right? And so it's something to be very proud of and be recognized. Anyways, let's move on. I'll keep it short. As you can see, this is the perspective. It's always been the perspective that I put up, and this is what the final building will eventually look like. And next slide, please, Miss Audrey. I put up here pictures from last month, only because I wasn't able to, or we weren't able to review them in the last month's presentation. So I wanted to show you from November. As you can see, the walls are still bare, they're raw. We were running into a lot of rainy days, and so that was an issue, of course, with the paint supplier. If you paint during a rainy day, you need 2 straight days of sun in order for your warranty to be effective. And so now, since we ran into a lot of sunny days, next slide, please, Miss Audrey. As you can see, okay, the walls have been painted. This is what, first coat, second coat, Red?
Well, for the where you see the shutters on the, you know, the ground floor, that's the final coat.
Sorry, final coat.
Yeah.
How about the second story one? That's still.
Yeah, I think tight, but I believe that we should be on the second coat by now.
And as you can see, the storm shutters, those are the panel type. They're not the ones where you slide or even install, but they're swing loaded. And so that's the architect's thing. That's kind of what the architect wanted to put out at the time. So very nice. It's in blue. Final color has been decided to be in blue, as you can see, and not the aquamarine green. And this is from Salvation Army. This was their choice, their decision to pick up this paint scheme. We were trying to guide them towards the original, you know, the first one, but they said, no, we like our dark. Next slide, please, Ms. Audrey. Okay, you can see it. Those are several interior pictures The tiles were still ungrouted. You had some restrooms that still needed some work. And as you can see on the far right, that is the foundation for the generator, the backup generator set. Okay, next slide, please, Ms. Audrey. About 2 weeks later, the floors have all been grouted. The interior paint and the interior ceilings, support ceilings have all been filled and put up with ceiling tiles. So aircon's ready. Yeah. Okay. We're about ready to go ahead and turn on the aircon. And so we're very close. We're very, very close to August. Okay, so by December 15th, I mean, right now it's ready. I say 97%. Greg tells me 96. By the time December 15th rolls around, it should be about 97%. Okay, and so we will be presenting to you a change order and a request for equitable adjustment in the January board. So, unless you have any questions, commissioners, Mr. Deputy, and Madam Director, that concludes my presentation.
Much. Any questions? None, Madam Director?
Okay, thank you. And now the next part is the division updates. And I do have that we were going to have the AE division and then the low income housing tax credit program and the community development block grant program. But the only two that are going to give some updates today, and they will really be pretty brief, our A&E division and the low income housing tax credit programs. We will table CDBG until the next meeting. So let's go ahead with the AE division's report.
Thank you, Madam Director. Once again, Ms. Audrey, could you go and pull up the slides? No. Uh-oh. Let me take the hits, darts, arrows.
Are you seeing it, Sunny?
No, ma'am, it's still not under presentation mode. Go ahead and go to slide view.
Apologies for the technical difficulties.
Okay, I can work with it. We can see it. Okay, good afternoon once again, commissioners, Mr. Deputy, Madam Director. Thank you for allowing me to present the Architectural Engineering Division. I'd like to say one thing about A&E, it's your division, not mine. And I always joke with the division members that A&E is like the wind. You know, you don't see the wind, you just kind of see the effects and the benefits of the wind. So oftentimes A&E is very quiet and very behind the scenes, but all you get to see are our finished products. Okay, and so next slide, please.
I'm sorry, Sunny. Let me start it again.
Problem.
Okay, can you see that?
You don't click on this. What is it?
Yeah, just click on the slides, Ms. Audrey. That'll be fine.
Can you
There
see
you
that?
go. Yes, yes, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. Now for A&E, and I'll keep it as brief as possible. Everyone, as you can see, you know, who we are, what we are. But first of all, what A&E is. You know, we want to keep our focus into delivering the projects. We are committed in doing that, delivering the projects on time and on budget. Oftentimes it doesn't happen, but that is our commitment. Our services that we provide, as you know already, project management, we do drawings, we do building maintenance, renovation scoping, also inspection services, right? We do when we can, we'll do the engineering in-house, as well as the drawings. And of course, for the most part, we also have individuals who are in charge of wage compliance and compliance to these HUD issues like Davis-Bacon and fair labor standards. Those, of course, we have to monitor. But we can't do all those services. We can't provide all these things unless you do know our core values. And the 4 core values you can see are community. Okay, we believe to support the community, of course, within GHURA themselves, within our division, and of course the community at large. We have, you know, issues like discovering and developing and driving. I know that sounds like BOC, right? It just takes it off of BOC. Nonetheless, and of course, teamwork. We're very, very driven for teamwork, right? And I mentioned driven. We always want to get things done quickly as possible, but to the best value for everybody. And the effects of all that, as you can see, are the projects down below. The projects that when I walked in back in 2019 to what it is now 2020. Okay, we have all the CDBG projects, the homes projects, and of course the CIP projects, the amounts that are executed every year. Okay, so again, not going to go over the amounts. You have them on your reports, but this is A&E's effective. Next slide, please, Ms. Audrey. Okay, and so A&E provides you with all these services: project management, which I've spoken about many times, technology and engineering, and these are those nice acronym standards that we incorporated all the specifications that we prepare, right? ACI, American Concrete Institute, ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineering. They're fancy words just to say these are how we were trained to know and to install and put into the specifications that go out publicly, right? NFPE, National Fire Protection. Of course, we also deal with regulatory compliance, right? Those are the things that HUD looks at, sometimes in the beginning, sometimes in the middle, and sometimes at the tail end. Nonetheless, we had to get individuals who would help us do that. Okay, you can see about process, technology, that last one, the people. Now, I want to say it again, A&E is your division. It's not mine. I'm just there to talk and yak a lot, right? But if I fail to tell you who they are, then I'm not doing my job. And so, next slide, please, Ms. Audrey. I'd like to introduce you to who A&E is. Okay, the first guy, that A&E manager, I think he likes to fool people. Okay, I don't want to talk too much about him. He says he knows a lot. He's been working a long time, like 30 years. So I'm going to skip him. Okay, I'm going to skip him. I think you see him too much, but nonetheless, he's a registered professional engineer and all those good things, right? I would like to talk about our program coordinator, Ms. Cherry. Okay, Ms. Cherry, as a highlight, was an executive administrator for a CEO at Fairchild Semiconductor. Now, if that name doesn't strike you, Fairchild Semiconductor was one of the founding semiconductor companies in Silicon Valley back in 1966. They eventually became Schlumberger in 1987. And nonetheless, it became, back in the 80s and 90s, that company was one of the they were the Apple spearhead companies of Silicon Valley. And so being the executive administrator for the CEO of Fairchild Semiconductor, we have somebody of a high caliber just in our midst. And that's Madam Cherry. She helps us out with a lot of the documentation. If you recall ever visiting A&E before, where all of our files and drawings were all over the place, if you visit it now, you will notice a very distinct difference, like night and day. She's very organized, very prompt, and there's a word for it, driven. Very driven. She will chase you down like a bulldog. Okay, so very important lady. She does a lot of the wage compliance and interview. She'll put on the safety shoes just to chase down these workers. Program Coordinator 3, Mr. Irvin Santiago, you met him here. He was the one that was telling you about the change orders. One thing about Irvin that I like, we call him the troubleshooter. Okay, he works well both in the admin and on the field. Okay, he came out of Yuma Tranquilidad and Ross, and is now helping us out with both administrative and field work over in Haiti. Okay, next slide, please. All right, and so the next four gentlemen are part of, they make the backbone of A&E. I believe you may have met them once or twice. Mr. Michael Recuyo, he is already a registered professional engineer in the Philippines. He is now getting his engineering registration on Guam. He's going to be taking the exam next month, or I'm sorry, not next month, possibly next year. My only fear, say to everyone, is when I talk about my guys, is that they can be easily poached. Yeah, you can see the caliber. You can see the caliber of my guys right now. Having a structural engineer when there are only 5 available on Guam, you can pretty much feel the tension. You say, "Oh, I'm a registered structural engineer." When in your backyard there's a military that's just building up all their facilities. Miguel Fernandez, engineer 2, you board members, you approved his above step. Thank you for that. And as you can see, he has been in the industry longer than some of us have been alive. 37 years in the industry for construction management. And as you can see, the projects that he's been involved with. Yeah, this is a short list. I had to shorten the list. It was a lot. But we call him the enforcer. So when he goes to job sites, he kind of knows what he's looking for. And the contractor, I think Ray has run into him many times, right?
Yes.
There. So he's not one to fool around with. Mr. Magnolia, Andrew Magnolia, he is our CAD operator. That's a fancy name for a draftsman. He knows how to put the drawings together, and that's something that many engineers, many professional engineers who are too lazy to do their own CAD drawings would like to have. Okay, very quick. He knows his where to put the drawings, and he also knows which drawings to assemble. Okay, that knowledge, that competency is so important nowadays. So, and as you can see in your notes there, that he was involved with the Dusitani and what was the other one? PIC Hotel expansions. So these guys know what they're doing. And the last one, of course, not least, Mr. Bob. Well, just like Miguel, he's been in the industry longer than some of us have been alive. And when HUD comes around and does their inspections, we put him up front. Okay, because HUD is the one who actually looks for him. And sometimes Bob is the one who tells HUD the right things about GHURA and what HUD should also be looking for. So yes, the two guys, which you can see 20 plus years, 36 plus years. Yes, we may need new blood to be coming in very, very soon. Right. And so the next slide, please, Miss Audrey. And these are all the projects starting from 2019. First, all got together at A&E. From Island to Sinapanya, of course, you're going to see the lighthouse there. These are all the CDBGs, some homes projects, and of course, the fire station design. So those are the projects that we started and are now finishing or have already finished. Okay. So that's A&E. Thank you very much for allowing me to yak again. Thank you, sir. You ready? Thank you.
Okay. last but not least, is low-income housing tax credit program. And I believe it's either Dominic or Miss Kathy, who will be presenting it.
It's gonna be Kathy and Miss Lizzie.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and all the board members and anybody else who's unfortunately in this room, I'm about to take you through the simple world of the low-income housing tax credit program. It's very simple and short. Audrey, could you go ahead and put up the LIHTC presentation, please? The home screen.
Sorry, Kat, I don't have that one.
So that's Eric and the
No,
other one is
it's with Leah.
Give our long.
Excuse me for a second.
Guess while we're doing that, Mr. Vice Chair, for your information about that bid. It was advertised on May 16th. The bid opening was June 21st, so it was delayed a little bit because of the storm. Notice to proceed was granted August 14th. And the request for the change order that the board voted on today was November 9th. That's for the Guma Tranquilidad renovation.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
No, I just went to the list.
Oh, Chicos.
Chico.
Yes, it's between the two names. I believe Audrey has it now, Miss Liz. She'll be able to put it up shortly.
Okay.
There it is. No problem. Okay.
Can you see that?
Yes, can you put it in presentation mode? Is that possible?
Can you see it?
Okay, same challenge.
Same?
Okay. Same challenges as the last presentation, but we'll move forward.
It's okay, we have.
Yes, yes. I'm glad that you do. So this is a presentation of for the to the board on the basics of the low-income housing tax credit program. The tax credit program is operated is run by the Research Planning and Evaluation Division, my division upstairs. One of my programs, the programs we run upstairs. Audrey, can you go to the second page, please? For the first, next page. Okay. By way of an overview, the LIHTC program is an IRS program. It's an Internal Revenue Service program under Section 42 of the regulation. It has been around since 1986 and has been intended to be the vehicle to provide opportunities for affordable housing in determined jurisdictions. It is used primarily for the new construction or acquisition or rehab of affordable housing of folks at a certain income level, which falls into that low income, very low income bracket. And there are two types of credits. There is one that's called the 9% credit and the other called a 4% credit. But the
the island has been running the 9% credits program. We've been entirely involved in the creation of new housing for the duration of our participation in the LIHTC program, which has been since 2005. This is the opportunity for us to provide the elements of a tax credit program that ensure that we're going to be able to create rental housing. This is all entirely rental housing for years to come. And this is, I can't even get over how important this is. The government of Guam is the effective recipient of these tax credits, or the authorization to issue tax credits or to provide the vehicle. And Guam has designated it's called the State Housing Finance Agency. GHURA is the State Housing Finance Agency dedicated to administer the tax credit program for the territory of Guam, for the government. Go back one page, Audrey. Okay. Sorry, now, I don't know why, but your pages are a little different from mine. Go right ahead. Next page, please. So I've said that the LIHTC program is the important way we have been able to create affordable housing. And so that is a big deal. It is the single resource that has been the most beneficial to the creation of affordable housing in the U.S. It has a budget authority at a congressional level of about $9 billion annually. And it works in theory, a very simple way. Tax credits are authorized by the Internal Revenue Service, which are available to developers and are awarded by housing finance agencies to create affordable housing. That is it. I mean, that is it in a nutshell. It is such a simple in concept, but it comes with its requirements. Not only will GHURA establish the process to award credits, but we are also going to be responsible for the duration for the compliance monitoring of these programs to ensure that they stay healthy and that they stay in compliance in order to continue the award of their credits. Credits are available for projects over a 10-year timeline. Next, Odd. Thank you. This is the path for the application process. This is our process in a very small nutshell. Step one would be that GHURA creates for the funding year what's known as the qualified allocation plan. And in it, the qualified allocation plan identifies all of the things that we want to see in a project awarded in such given year. Developers will submit applications for a LIHTC project that they would like to develop using tax credits, and GHURA will evaluate the project and the board will award based on the process, which includes an internal evaluation based on the qualified allocation plan. Developers will get their tax credits and will either directly find investors to invest in their project, but more than likely, they have a syndicator on their team who will group potential investors and then find them the syndication to be able to bring money into their project to build it. Now, that syndication process is discussed later because it has its own slide. It's that big of a deal. But effectively, we deal with these tax credit applications from developers or developer owners who built quite a comprehensive, a very detailed and complex team because of the nature of how these large projects will get funded. The next screen, please, Audrey. So the qualified allocation plan is effectively the guidelines for which we wish to award credits in a given year. We are required to do this with the qualified allocation plan, the QAP, via the regulation by section 42 of the IRS rules. And it establishes the compliance monitoring as well as the criteria for which we want to select projects in that year. And if anything, you would look at it as it's the playing field. It's what they must participate. It's what they must adhere to in order to become a potential awardee. Next, please, Aud. At a minimum, the QAP selection criteria for which we will consider their participation is shown on that screen in order to receive credits. We very much look at project location. It has become an issue where we have areas of very higher density than other areas. People will want to know that they're able to. A developer will want to know that where they put their housing, people will want to live, and the people who want to rent want to make sure that they're in an area where they could actually find jobs and have a sense of quality to their lives. We want to address housing needs characteristics that are becoming an issue for what we need here, and that's really a local level determination. So we want to build that into our QAP. There are times when we have built in the need for larger units, and we put that forward. And there are other times when we're really looking for smaller units, 1 and 2 bedroom versus 3 and 4, depending upon what we see is needed out in the public. We like to know that this is, some project that the properties are going to be integrated into the community. They're not going to be, we don't want to see them in areas where you wouldn't normally have families or individuals living. So we definitely want to know what their market conditions are going to be like when they live there. We want to know who that is that wants to build it. We need to know who the sponsor and the developer characteristics are and what their experiences are in this space because of the complexity. And if possible, we want to know how it might address special needs populations when we identify that we need something for a special needs population, be they the elderly or persons with disabilities or some other determined need for the community, and other items that you see listed there. Next slide, Odd. You can, in your QAP, determine a threshold criteria, the minimum that we would want to accomplish with our credits. We have used in the past that we are using all of our credits towards 9% awards, which falls in line with the idea of new construction. Because what we haven't found is a lot of over the almost 20 years that we've been running it, we haven't found a lot of need to rehab properties. That hasn't been the focus. We have just been over the years since I've been here, we've run two housing needs assessments, and in both cases we were short on inventory. So we're trying to address the need for additional inventory has led down the road of entertaining applications for new construction. I want to give you just a quick run, just a quick one more thought to this, and that is that we would look at things like environmental appropriateness. We want a market study to see what are the elements of the community that are going to be important. We want to see what site control do you own? Does the developer owner, do they own it, and how? So that we can make sure that it stays in the rental housing space for as long as it's owned in that, with whatever is the vehicle. And we just want to address things that are important to us. um, smoke-free. I mean, we really can go to the very detailed levels of what we want to see in our applications. Next on. So syndication and equity investment. There isn't much to say here other than this is how they make their money, to how they gather their money to pay for their projects, and by they I mean the developer owner. They will either find a direct investor or they will syndicate in order to get the monies that they need. It is a dollar for dollar credit to the investor on their future tax for their tax burden. Interestingly enough, right? I mean, for the developer, it won't necessarily mean that you're getting a dollar for that dollar. There's going to be a bit of a difference there. And when the markets are really healthy and strong, you know, the conditions that they find when they go to syndication are going to weigh on how much money they can get for their projects. But it is a dollar for dollar credit, and those credits are available to the developer and passed on to the investor for a 10-year period. So when Guam receives $3 million on average in a given year, that development is going to receive, provided they stay compliant and healthy, $3 million authorized to them for 10 years. So it's a sizable investment of the funds, but they are large projects. We'll get to the projects later. Next screen, Audrey, please. We're going to go left to right on this screen, and so the IRS will. This is effectively the syndication in a nutshell. The IRS will identify an amount of tax credits for Guam to receive, and it will be up to the State Housing Finance Agency, or GHURA, to create an application, create a QAP and an application, and to field those applications and choose an entity or entities to award tax credits to. The owner developer will take those tax credits and find syndication to receive the funds and to help build their project and get that back in actual today dollars in order to build their project. They can also take out a loan. They could also have mixed financing in their project. They could get other grants. They could do other loans in order to make their project budget work. The thing is that the rents that they get are how they're going to be paying back on their project over the period when they have to actually develop it. They have a contractor to pay. So this is a long-term project that they take on, and it does have a lot of moving parts, and you can tell that with the applications that we receive, which are quite sizable, honestly. Upon completion, low-income housing families will be able to rent, and we will monitor at a minimum every 3 years for their compliance, and that goes for every project, and it rolls for 3 years. Next screen, Audrey. This and the next two screens show you the evolution of how we have been awarding projects since the first one was awarded in 2005. We have generated about 1,300 units of housing, 1,349, and that includes the one that we just opened, which we just saw the developer open, which is Summer Breeze, and that includes the soon to be Summer Vista. That is the next one that is going to be. We will look to the ribbon cutting for that one in time. That one's up on NCL. There have only been 2 teams that have come in successfully to be awarded over the years. But there has been more interest. There had been more interest around the 2010 timeline. And we are fielding questions from organizations, from developers and whatnot over time. But it's a complex vehicle to try to enter into. And if you are a contractor, you're one element, you could be, but you really have to have quite a few, deep resources to get this thing together. But we have done from 2005, there were 3 projects under the Ironwood. Well, there were 3 in Dededo, then we did some in Tamuning. We've really been finding that our developer presenters or proposers are coming in with properties in the north. And we have in the last few cycles tried to see what we could do to incentivize projects out of the north into the south, into the central areas, other areas that we would like to see housing kind of diversify. It's difficult because the areas where folks are concentrating where they are for a reason. And land is at a premium in, throughout the island, but most particularly in the central and northern regions. Go ahead and forward 2 slides, Audrey. That is the last one. As of in 2022, we awarded Summer Vista 1. I'm happy that Dominic Calvo, who put together this presentation, has given you guys an idea underneath each of the little houses, how much was awarded for each of these different types of projects and the number of units that they're going with. It is a complex process, and it starts with a QAP. And the next slide, please, Odd, where our board is concerned. The role that the board's responsibilities in the LIHTC process. We will create, GHURA staff will create a QAP, well, it's a pre-QAP really, because what we will do is we are going to do a request to the board to accept that QAP for review, so we can provide it to the public to make their comments. And those comments will come back to GHURA, and we will take them back to the board for their consideration. That public comment period could be a month. It depends on what we feel is available and necessary to drum up the curiosity of the developers. We also notify developers that have expressed an interest in participation. A final draft of the QAP will then be presented to the board for approval, and that will be our trigger to go ahead and start the actual application process. The application, you will see the application and the QAP, which kind of mirror one another, and that will be the start of our cycle. Next slide, please, Odd. Our award timeline is provided here in duration, and also in the bottom right corner of the slide as what we are working towards for the calendar year 2024. And that is to have applications received in March. So from January through February, right before March, we are going to be working to develop the qualified allocation plan, provide it to the board in order for you guys to review and absorb. And we will be here for any sort of comments and questions that you would like to have of that process. We normally start this process later in the year because credits have to be awarded. They are identified on an annual basis, but must be awarded no longer than 2 years after they are awarded. But we have found that projects are quite expensive. And what we used to be able to do on an annual basis, we now have to extend to 2 years in order to be able to afford it. You'll see Summer Vista is at $5 million for 90 odd units. That's kind of the space that we're operating in these days. We want to start this process much earlier. That's why we're shooting for March, so that we can actually give the process its normal run and provide the developers enough time to put these rather data heavy and cost heavy applications together, so that we have enough time to review them and award them and give them as much of a start as they can, so they can start in this literal year. That's our target. We normally we are doing this at the end of the year, and we find that that's just too much of a challenge, and they lose effectively a part of their cycle. So we want to go about it that way. And I apologize, it is a very short presentation because I imagined that these are brief, informational sessions, and any additional details we'll be happy to answer to at any time. And we can actually go into a section, other sessions if you wish, on just the QAP, or just, just what it is that we look for. Any element we would be available for. And last slide, Audrey. And that is LIHTC in a nutshell. Dominic Calvo is my assigned PC, who is very much I'm happy to call him the SME, the subject matter expert, when it comes to the details on LIHTC. Unfortunately, he's also one of my environmental guys, and he's upstairs working like mad on that. But it is either he or I who would be happy to put anything else together that you might like for informational purposes. There's a lot of resources out there, but I wouldn't even know where to begin unless you let us know how you'd like to proceed.
Okay. This was very good.
Thanks very much.
Dom,
To you and Dominic.
Dom did a great
Yeah,
job.
yeah.
These are good slides.
It's good, right? It's a good refresher as well.
Yeah. Cool.
The actual that.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Thank you very much. Madam Director, is there anything else?
I'd really just like to thank the board for taking the time today to, include the informational presentations that you just had, because I know a lot of times there may be things that GHURA is involved in, and maybe just a little refresher on some of the programs and projects that we have. So hopefully the next time we have a presentation, it won't take up as much time, but we'd like to continue having each of the divisions give you information on what they do. So thank you for the extra time today to allow us to have them do the AE division presentation, as well as the LIHTC presentation. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Norma, Kathy, and Nicole, for the presentation. A lot of work goes into presentation, especially if they're clean and informative. So appreciate that. Thank you for the work. All right, thank you very much, Executive Director. And moving on to item number, that should be 7. Any announcements do you have, Madam Director?
None. Thank you.
If not, the item there is the next proposed board meeting will be on Tuesday, January 9th, 2024 at 12 p.m. Please mark your calendars, and of course, the fine staff here will confirm to make sure that that's there. I mean, other than that, we're heading into the holiday season. Obviously, everyone won't see each other in this setting until next year. I wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. I think we've all deserved it this year. If not, then you should find a reason, because we need to celebrate. Other than that, right, also have a happy New Year. We'll see you on the other side. If there's nothing else, commissioners, may I call for adjournment? May I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, thank you. Get a second? Any opposed? All right, hearing none, thank you very much. We'll call this meeting at 2:11 p.m. Thank you very much.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you, Carl. Hope you feel better.
You
Merry
too.
Christmas.
Happy holidays,
To
sir.
catch up on. Nah. Oh, yeah. You're just getting warmed up. This. I was like, oh. we're-